Missouri was the seventh largest state in the Union by land area, sprawling across 69,704 square miles of rolling hills, river valleys, and rugged Ozark terrain. Its population hovered around 1.2 million, a mix of German immigrants, Southern farmers, enslaved African Americans, and fiercely independent frontiersmen. Topographically, Missouri was a crossroads. The Missouri River sliced through the heart of the state like a saber, connecting St. Louis in the east to Kansas City in the west. Whoever controlled the river controlled the state, and whoever controlled Missouri had a gateway to the west. But politically, Missouri was a border state with a split personality, half Union, half Confederate, all chaos. It was officially neutral, but neutrality in 1861 was like trying to stay dry in a hurricane while standing in a puddle. The state convention refused to secede, but the governor had other plans. Born in Kentucky in 1806, Claiborne Fox Jackson was the kind of man who could charm a room and then quietly set it on fire. He moved to Missouri in his youth, married into the powerful Sappington family, and built a career selling patent medicine, specifically anti-malaria pills made from quinine and sassafras. Spoiler, they didn't work. Jackson's business ventures flopped, but his political instincts were razor-sharp. He served in the Missouri legislature for years, switching parties like a man changing hats in a windstorm. By 1860, he was a pro-slavery Democrat, elected governor on a platform of moderation, which he promptly abandoned. He was a Southern sympathizer with dreams of dragging Missouri into the Confederacy. His weakness? Overconfidence. He believed Missourians would rally to his cause. They didn't. When the state convention refused to secede, Jackson began plotting in secret, arming militias, courting Confederate support, and eyeing the St. Louis arsenal, which held 40,000 weapons. Nathaniel Lyon was born in Ashford, Connecticut, in 1818. He was a West Point graduate, a career soldier, and a man who looked like he hadn't smiled since the Mexican War. He hated slavery, loved the Union, and had the temperament of a lit match. Lyon was stationed in St. Louis in early 1861 and quickly allied with Congressman Frank Blair Jr. and the city's large population of anti-slavery German immigrants. He saw Jackson scheming and decided to act, without waiting for orders. He was a crusader, not a diplomat. His saber didn't hum with righteous fury, it screamed. Lyon believed compromise was treason. His weakness? Impatience. His mistake? Underestimating how far Jackson would go. Marmaduke was Jackson's nephew, born in Missouri in 1833 and raised in a world of Southern aristocracy. His father, Meredith Marmaduke, had been governor. His cousin, C.H. Hardin, would be governor later. John was polished, educated at Yale and West Point, and deeply loyal to the Southern cause. But in June 1861, Marmaduke was still green. He had resigned his U.S. Army commission to join the Missouri State Guard. He believed in honor, strategy, and the righteousness of rebellion. His weakness? Naivete? His mistake? Trusting Jackson's judgment. Lyon got wind of a pro-Confederate militia drilling near St. Louis at Camp Jackson. He believed they were preparing to seize the arsenal. So he struck first. With a force of Union regulars and German volunteers, Lyon surrounded the camp and arrested the entire militia. Then, because he apparently skipped the optics class at West Point, he marched the prisoners through downtown St. Louis. The city erupted. Civilians threw rocks. Shots were fired. 28 people were killed, including women and children. Lyon didn't flinch. Days later, he was promoted to brigadier general. Because in 1861, nothing said good job like a riot. The summer of 1861 in Missouri was hot, humid, and politically combustible. The state was officially neutral, but neutrality was a joke, like bringing a water pistol to a forest fire. The governor, Claiborne Fox Jackson, had just been outmaneuvered in Jefferson City by Union forces. His dream of dragging Missouri into the Confederacy was unraveling faster than a cheap carpet. So what did Jackson do? He fled. Not alone, of course. He took with him Colonel John Sappington Marmaduke, his nephew and military advisor, and a ragtag militia of about 500 men, farmers, shopkeepers, and Southern sympathizers armed with squirrel rifles and bravado. Their destination? Boonville, a sleepy river town perched on the northern bluffs of the Missouri River, population roughly 2,500. The town was nestled in a region known as Little Dixie, where Southern accents were thick and loyalties even thicker. Boonville sat halfway between St. Louis and Kansas City, making it a strategic gem. Control Boonville, control the river. Control the river, control the state. Jackson's goal was simple. Make a stand, rally Confederate support, and show Missourians that the South had backbone. Marmaduke, ever the West Point pragmatist, disagreed. He wanted to retreat to Lexington, where reinforcements waited. But Jackson, the consummate politician, refused. He believed that a show of strength, even if it was mostly theater, would inspire the masses. Spoiler, it didn't. Meanwhile, Brigadier General Nathaniel Lyon, the Union's newly minted firebrand, wasn't about to let Jackson play Confederate cosplay in Boonville. Lyon was a man of action, not patience. He loaded 1,700 Union troops onto steamboats, sailed up the Missouri River, and landed 8 miles south of Boonville. His plan? March inland and crush the rebellion before it could take root. Marmaduke, now reluctantly in command of Jackson's militia, had 450 men. Most were armed with hunting rifles, a few with shotguns, and one guy probably brought a pitchfork. They had no artillery, no cavalry, and no real training. What they did have was hope, and a bad position. Marmaduke placed his men along a ridge near the town, hoping the high ground would compensate for their lack of firepower. Lyon, on the other hand, had artillery, infantry, and German-American volunteers who were itching to prove themselves. At 8 a.m., Lyon opened fire. The Union cannons roared. Marmaduke's line wavered. Within 30 minutes, the militia broke ranks. Some fled into the woods. Others dropped their weapons and ran. A few tried to fight back, but it was like throwing rocks at a steam engine. By 9 a.m., Lyon had taken Boonville. The casualties were light. 5 Union dead, 3 Confederate. But the political impact was seismic. Lyon's victory gave the Union control of the Missouri River, effectively cutting off Confederate supply lines and morale. It also sent a clear message: Missouri would not go quietly. Jackson's government fled southwest, eventually setting up a Confederate government in exile in Neosho. It was more symbolic than functional, but it gave the South a foothold in the state. Marmaduke, humiliated and furious, resigned his commission. He blamed Jackson for the disaster, calling the decision to fight politically motivated and militarily suicidal. But Marmaduke wasn't done. He later rejoined the Confederate Army, fought valiantly in battles like Prairie Grove and Helena, and eventually became governor of Missouri after the war. Lyon, however, wouldn't live to see the long game. Just 2 months later, on August 10, 1861, he led Union forces into the Battle of Wilson's Creek near Springfield. Outnumbered and outmaneuvered, Lyon was shot in the chest while rallying his troops. His final words? "I am a dead man." He was right. The skirmish was small, but it set the tone for Missouri's brutal internal war. It emboldened Unionists, dispersed Confederate hopes, and triggered years of guerrilla warfare. It revealed the fault lines between political ambition and military reality, and it introduced America to 3 men whose fates would shape the war's Western theater. If you enjoyed this tale of ambition, cannon smoke, and political theater, hit that subscribe button. We've got more Civil War stories coming, some tragic, some triumphant, all unforgettable.